Today marks 2 years since House Minority Whip Steve Scalise suffered life-threatening injuries when a gunman opened fire during a practice for the annual congressional baseball game. The Louisiana congressman was hit in the left hip by a rifle bullet. He spent 20 days in intensive care and nearly 6 weeks in the hospital.
His book, Back in the Game, One Gunman, Countless Heroes, and the Fight for My Life reflects on the shooting moment by moment and on the congressman's long road to recovery afterwards. It's now available in paperback, and joining us now is Congressman Scalise. Good to see you, sir.
Thanks. Good to see you. Good morning.
Good morning. So the book is about, you mentioned trying to bring people together, and you talk about the gunman, which is remarkable. And this is what you say. You describe him as an outspoken Bernie Sanders supporter who went into a rage after then candidate Trump won the election and then became a, quote, full-time political flamethrower. And that's describing that gunman. But we've also seen an increase in violence on the far right. For example, some of your Democratic colleagues have been sent homemade bombs. There have been death threats. So what role do you see leaders like yourself on both sides of the aisle playing in bringing down the tension and the fractured divisions that have emerged over the last couple of years?
Well, I think we all need to make sure that we're calling on everybody to keep a civil tone as we disagree on issues which are all part of the foundation of our country, as we get to express our views. You can even speak out against your government, but you shouldn't try to make threats against somebody physically. You shouldn't threaten a person and make the disagreements personal.
When you say, call on everyone to sort of try to tamp down, does that include the president? Because a lot of people feel that he's really contributed to this type of language that at times can be inflammatory.
Well, no, he's never made any death threats to anybody. I've seen people make death threats, and I've called it out on both sides of the aisle. And I do think that's where we've got to be very clear, is how we agree and disagree on issues.
Right.
We all are going to have our own views. Sure, we're going to disagree with each other politically. That shouldn't change. It's just, when you disagree with somebody, you shouldn't say, I want to kill you because I disagree with you.
But that does happen. There's something short of a death threat, though. There's sort of uncivil language that we've kind of seen
low
a
IQ
rise
individual,
in.
stone cold loser, low IQ individual. Name calling that young people.
How about go out and take this person out because you disagree with them? I've seen that. That crosses the line to me. When you're actually advocating for somebody to have physical harm done to them because you disagree with them politically, that's where you cross the line.
Has a member of Congress or a person running for president used that language?
I've seen it, and I've called it out in the past.
They've said that they want violence against another opponent?
Yeah, there was a Republican candidate for governor last year, for example, that made threats and literally encouraged people to engage in violence. I called him out. There have been Democrats who have literally called for threats to people's lives or physical harm. I've called that out. I don't see, by the way, both sides calling it out equally. I'll see a lot of Democrats call out Republicans. They need to be more vocal when they see somebody in their own party trying to encourage physical violence against people.
So listen, you were shot, and we were having a little conversation beforehand about just what it was like in those moments when you realized you were shot and you're sort of trying to crawl off of the baseball field. And I think a lot of people wondered whether or not, having had that experience, traumatic experience, fighting for your life, would have changed your political point of view on gun control legislation. But it really hasn't.
No, it hasn't, because first of all, it is something that's deep in the core of my beliefs, and especially when you look at the Second Amendment and understand its history. But it was people with guns who saved my life, who were able to counter the shooter. He went there with the element of surprise, with a semi-automatic rifle and a handgun and a lot of ammunition, intent on taking out all the Republicans on that ball field, and he was very clear about that. And yet he wasn't able to accomplish it because there were people, in this case law enforcement, Capitol Police, there with guns to counter him. And if they weren't there with those firearms, a lot of us wouldn't be here today. So I'm thankful that there were heroes on the ball field, like the Capitol Police officers, David Bailey and Crystal Griner, and so many other heroes who risked their life so that we could make it through that day.
But when you write about this guy, the person that shot you, you talk about his rage. He was on social media, very, very critical of the Republican Party. This is the kind of guy that one could argue maybe should have been flagged. Do you see any sort of wiggle room there, any leeway for maybe some legislation that would look out for someone who may be having a mental health breakdown?
Yeah, in fact, we already have scores of laws on the books to address those red flags. In too many cases, we've seen the red flags not get dealt with. In some of the school shootings, you know, we had in one of the school shootings, the kid was saying he was going to be a school shooter. The FBI actually had him on their list, and for whatever reason, they let him go. They didn't pursue him, which, by the way, it's illegal to say that I'm going to go and kill all the kids in a school. And yet he said it. He was flagged for it. Other people raised this concern. Even a lot of the kids at the school said he's going to be a school shooter, and nothing was done about it by the FBI and the agencies that are tasked with keeping us safe and enforcing those laws already on the books. So the answer is, if somebody's not following a law in the book, and if an agency isn't doing their job, you don't put more laws on top of that that only hurt law-abiding citizens. You go make sure the laws that are already on the books that aren't being followed are actually being enforced.
Mm-hmm. Your focus is really talking about the people who helped to save your life, the heroes who intervened, from the officers there to fellow lawmakers who jumped in, and your journey at a pretty accelerated pace back to the floor of Congress.
Yeah, that was just one of these unbelievable moments to be able to come back to work after being in the hospital for so long, a total of a little over 3 months where I was in the hospital, from being treated for maybe not even being able to make it those 2 days after the shooting, where they weren't sure if I was going to make it, to then having to learn how to walk again, and just some of the basic things that you take for granted every day, getting up and just taking a step. And I was able to do that. Physical therapists that helped me along the way. Of course, the doctors, the surgeons who just did unbelievable work, performed miracles themselves that somehow got me through those first few days. And so the book is really about the kind of the uplifting side of what we don't see enough every day. We don't see enough stories of heroes, and they're real world heroes that I wanted to tell this story through their eyes.
Is it the thank you to all those people?
It really is. It's a way for me to highlight what they did, to tell the story of real heroes, and show people that, you know, we all deal with adversity. Something bad happens to us every day, but a lot of good things happen to us as well, and we shouldn't be clouded by the negative. We ought to focus on the positive, because that's what's helped me get through this, and hopefully if somebody else is dealing with some adversity, it can help them get through it as well.
And you've got just a few more months before you're not using that cane anymore. We were talking about that in the CBS This Morning Green Room.
Yeah, that's my next goal. Get rid of the crutch and just be able to walk normal again.
Yeah, we'll look forward to seeing you do that.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Congressman. Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks.
The book is called Back in the Game. It's out in paperback right now.